When the bell rang, no one stood up. Room 3B was quieter than it had ever been. 31 students sat in their seats, staring at the front of the classroom. The rain tapped softly against the windows. Outside, students laughed as they crossed the schoolyard with umbrellas. Inside, no one laughed. Their homeroom teacher, Mr. Rin Ishikawa, stood beside his desk with a folder in his hands. He did not look angry. He did not look sad. He looked tired. The kind of tired that sleep could never fix. He looked at every student one by one before speaking. "Today," he said quietly, "will be my last day as your teacher." A few students exchanged confused looks. Someone whispered, "Is he transferring?" "I don't know. Maybe he got promoted." Mr. Ishikawa heard them, but he ignored the whispers. He walked to the blackboard. With slow, careful writing, he wrote only 3 words. "The truth matters." Then he placed the chalk down. "I know all of you have questions." His voice stayed calm. "So do I." 3 days earlier, the entire school had stopped moving. Police cars blocked the front gate. Teachers gathered outside the gym. Parents rushed in after receiving phone calls. No classes were held that day, because one student had disappeared. Her name was Mina Arai. 16 years old. Quiet. Always early. Always carrying the same blue notebook. By evening, everyone was searching. Teachers, police, volunteers, even strangers. But no one found her. Not until the next morning. She was discovered inside the school's old greenhouse behind the science building. The greenhouse had been locked for years. Dust covered every window. Plants had died long ago. No one visited it anymore. She was sitting on the floor. Her back rested against the wall. Her eyes were closed. It almost looked like she had fallen asleep while reading. Except, there was no notebook. And she was dead. The police said very little. There are no signs of forced entry. There are no serious external injuries. The investigation is ongoing. That was all. Rumors replaced facts. Some students believed she had taken her own life. Others believed someone had hidden her there. Social media became full of guesses. Photos. Fake stories. Videos. Everyone wanted answers. No one had them. Back in room 3B, Mr. Ishikawa opened the folder. Inside were attendance papers. Old assignments. Small notes students had written months ago. He pulled out one sheet. Mina never missed a homework assignment. He smiled faintly. Not once. No one spoke. He continued. Many people think they knew Mina. They didn't. Another pause. People only notice loud voices. They forget the quiet ones. Near the window sat Haruto Kanda. He stared at his desk. He hadn't spoken since Mina disappeared. His fingers shook under the table. No one noticed. Or maybe, no one wanted to. Near the back sat Aya Fujimoto. She crossed her arms. She hated silence. Silence made people think. Thinking made people remember. She preferred noise. Noise buried memories. She looked toward the empty desk. Mina's desk. Still untouched. Her pencil case remained inside. A tiny rabbit keychain hung from the zipper. Nobody had moved it. Nobody wanted to. Mr. Ishikawa walked toward the empty desk. He rested one hand on it. "You all know the police are asking questions." Several students nodded. "They've questioned teachers. They've questioned parents. They've questioned many of you." He looked across the room. "But there is one question no one has asked." He waited. The room felt smaller. What kind of people were we, before Mina died? No one answered. Because everyone understood. That question had no safe answer. A loud knock interrupted the silence. The classroom door opened. Vice Principal Nakano stepped inside. His face looked pale. "Ishikawa." "Yes." "You have 5 minutes." Mr. Ishikawa nodded. The vice principal left. The room became quiet again. I was told not to discuss the investigation. Mr. Ishikawa smiled without happiness. So I won't. He placed another paper onto the desk. Instead, I'll tell you a story. Several students looked up. It happened 8 years ago. When I was a new teacher, I believed students were honest. Small laughter spread through the room. It disappeared quickly. I believed that if something bad happened, someone would always tell the truth. He shook his head. I was wrong. Haruto swallowed. His breathing became heavier. Aya noticed. She frowned. Why is he nervous? Mr. Ishikawa continued. A boy stole money. No one confessed. I punished the whole class. The guilty student cried louder than everyone else. He looked toward the rain outside. Years later, he admitted he had enjoyed watching innocent classmates suffer. Silence. That was the day I learned something. He faced the students again. Guilt does not always look guilty. Someone near the middle raised a hand. It was Yuto. Sir. Yes. Do you think someone here killed Mina? The classroom froze. No one even breathed. Mr. Ishikawa did not answer immediately. Instead, he looked at every face again. One by one, until the silence became painful. Finally, he spoke. I don't know. It sounded honest. Too honest. But I do know this. If the truth is inside this room, it has been sitting here long before Mina disappeared. The final bell rang. No one moved. Normally, students rushed toward the hallway. Not today. Mr. Ishikawa closed the folder. My career ends today. I've already submitted my resignation. Gasps spread across the room. A teacher quitting after a student's death was almost unheard of. Why? Someone whispered. He heard it. This school believes education ends with grades. I disagree. He picked up his bag. I think education begins when people face themselves. He started walking toward the door. Then stopped. Without turning around, he said one final sentence. I hope, before this month ends, at least one of you finds the courage to tell the truth. He left. The door closed softly behind him. For almost a minute, nobody moved. Then chairs scraped across the floor. Whispers exploded. What did he mean? Was he accusing us? Did he know something? No way. This is insane. Haruto remained seated. His breathing grew faster. Inside his backpack, a blue notebook rested beneath his textbooks. The cover was scratched. There was a tiny white sticker in one corner. A rabbit. Exactly like the keychain hanging from Mina's pencil case. His hands trembled. He had never opened it. Not once. Because he already knew. Whatever waited inside would change everything. Outside the classroom, hidden behind the hallway wall, Mr. Ishikawa stood completely still. He had not gone home. He listened as frightened voices filled the room. Then he quietly took a small voice recorder from his pocket. A red light blinked. Still recording. He whispered to himself. No one tells the truth at the beginning. He slipped the recorder back into his coat. And that is exactly where the truth begins. He walked away without looking back. Behind him, the rain continued to fall. And somewhere inside room 3B, someone finally decided to read the notebook. Haruto did not go home. The last train would not leave for another 2 hours. He sat alone in a small park a few blocks from the school. The rain had stopped, but the benches were still wet. He wiped one with his sleeve before sitting down. His backpack rested beside him. Inside it was Mina's notebook. He stared at it for almost 10 minutes. His fingers touched the zipper, pulled it open, stopped, closed it again. He could not do it. Not yet. The first time Haruto spoke to Mina had been 7 months earlier. It happened in the library. He had been looking for a history book. She was already holding it. Oh. Haruto scratched the back of his head. I needed that. Mina looked at the cover. Oh. Without saying another word, she handed it to him. You can have it. No, it's okay. You need it. So do you. She smiled. I already read it. That was the longest conversation they ever had. The next week, she quietly placed another history book on his desk. A small sticky note was attached. This one is better. No name. No smiley face. Just 5 words. Haruto never thanked her. He wanted to. But every time he tried, she was already gone. A cold wind passed through the park. Haruto finally opened the notebook. The first page was blank. The second page contained only one sentence. People tell lies because they fear punishment. He turned the page. Adults tell lies because they fear shame. Another page. Children tell lies because adults teach them how. Haruto frowned. This isn't homework. He kept reading. Every page contained observations. Not stories. Not diary entries. Just thoughts. As if Mina had spent years watching people. When someone laughs too loudly, they usually want to hide something. People who say, "Trust me," are often asking for trust they haven't earned. Silence scares guilty people more than questions do. Haruto felt uncomfortable. It didn't sound like a 16-year-old girl. It sounded like someone much older. Someone who had already lost faith in people. Then he reached a page that had been folded. He unfolded it carefully. There were names. 32 names. Every student in class 3B. Each name had a number beside it. From 1 to 10. Haruto found his own name. Haruto Kanda, 6. What? Below it, in tiny handwriting, kind. Afraid. Hides when conflict begins. Haruto swallowed. She had judged everyone. Aya Fujimoto, 2. Good liar. Doesn't enjoy hurting people. Only winning. Yuto Sasaki, 8. Honest. Too honest. Easy to manipulate. Then, at the very bottom, there was no score. Only one sentence. Someone in this room is pretending to be afraid. Haruto's heart began racing. He looked around the empty park. No one was there. Yet he suddenly felt watched. His phone vibrated. Unknown number. He answered. Hello. No response. Only breathing. Slow. Calm breathing. Who's this? Silence. Click. The call ended. Haruto stared at the screen. Unknown number. No history. No message. Across the street, a person wearing a gray hoodie lowered a phone, then walked away. The next morning, school felt different. Students spoke more quietly. Teachers avoided eye contact. Even the janitor seemed nervous. News reporters stood outside the gates. Cameras pointed toward anyone entering. Questions flew through the air. Were you friends with Mina? Did she have enemies? Do students feel safe? Most ignored them. Inside class 3B, Mina's desk had disappeared. Only an empty space remained. No chair. No books. Nothing. As if she had never existed. Aya stared at the empty spot. They removed it. A boy beside her nodded. It feels creepy. No. Aya whispered. It feels wrong. Their substitute teacher introduced herself. My name is Ms. Emi Takeda. She forced a smile. I know this is a difficult week. Nobody answered. She began taking attendance. Every student replied. Until Mina Arai. Silence. Ms. Takeda froze. She slowly looked at the list. Her face turned pale. I'm sorry. She crossed the name out. The room remained silent. At lunch, Haruto sat alone. He could not stop thinking about the notebook. Especially one sentence. Someone in this room is pretending to be afraid. Who? And why? Mind if I sit? Haruto looked up. Aya stood there with her lunch tray. You usually don't eat alone. I wanted to today. She sat anyway. For a while. Neither spoke. Finally Aya broke the silence. Did you know Mina? A little. You? No. She poked at her rice. I wish I did. Haruto looked surprised. I used to think quiet people had boring lives. She laughed softly. I don't think that anymore. She looked directly into his eyes. Can I ask you something? Okay. When the police questioned you, what did they ask? Haruto stiffened. Why? I'm curious. They asked where I was Friday. And I told them. Truthfully. Yes. Aya nodded. Then smiled. You hesitated. Haruto felt sweat forming on his forehead. I was remembering. No. Aya said calmly. You were deciding. She stood up. See you later. She walked away, leaving Haruto unable to finish his lunch. That evening, Haruto read more of the notebook. Near the middle, he found dates. Different days. Different observations. April 18th. Mr. Ishikawa looked happy today. Fake smile. Real eyes. May 3rd. Someone entered the classroom after everyone left. They searched my desk. Nothing stolen. Just looking. Haruto stopped reading. Someone searched her desk? Why hadn't she told anyone? He turned another page. The handwriting became messy. Almost rushed. June 11th. Today I finally understand. It wasn't an accident. Haruto's eyes widened. An accident? What accident? He kept reading. The next page had been torn out. Then another. 3 pages missing. His hands shook. Someone had removed them. Recently. The edges were still clean. The next page read, If anything happens to me. Haruto held his breath. The answer is not outside this school. He turned the page. Blank. Another. Blank. Another. Blank. The notebook ended. Haruto closed it. Nothing made sense. Someone had torn out the most important pages. Someone had searched Mina's desk. Someone had called him. Someone knew he had the notebook. At exactly 10:47 p.m., his phone buzzed again. This time, a text message. Unknown number. Only 4 words. Return what isn't yours. No name. No explanation. Just another message seconds later. Tomorrow. Then, a photograph arrived. Haruto opened it. His blood turned cold. It was taken only minutes earlier. From outside his bedroom window. It showed him, holding the blue notebook. Someone had been watching. Someone close enough to see inside his room. Someone who knew exactly where the notebook was. At the bottom of the photo, a final message appeared. Don't make the same mistake Mina did. Haruto did not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the photograph. His bedroom. His desk. The notebook. Someone had been standing outside his window. Watching him. Waiting. Morning came without rest. He put the notebook into a plastic folder and hid it beneath a loose floorboard in his room. If they come back, they won't find it. At least, that was what he hoped. School felt colder than usual. Not because of the weather. Because everyone had stopped acting normal. Friends no longer walked together. Conversations ended when someone approached. Every laugh sounded forced. Every smile looked borrowed. It was as if the whole class had become actors who had forgotten their lines. When Haruto entered room 3B, he noticed something strange. Someone had written a sentence on the blackboard. In white chalk. The liar is still here. Students whispered. Who wrote that? Was it a prank? Someone erase it. Ms. Takeda stared at the board. Her hands shook slightly before she erased the words. She said nothing. but everyone had already read them. During lunch, Haruto received another message. Music room. 4 p.m. Come alone. No number. No name. He deleted it. Seconds later, the same message appeared again. He hadn't received another text. The deleted one had simply returned. At 4 o'clock, Haruto stood outside the old music room. The room had not been used for years. Dust covered the windows. The piano inside had 3 broken keys. He slowly opened the door. Hello. Silence. The room was empty. Or so he thought. Close the door. A voice came from behind the piano. Aya stepped into the light. Haruto jumped. You sent those messages? No. She looked genuinely confused. I sent you one. She held up her phone. I told you to meet me here yesterday. Haruto checked his messages. Nothing. I never got it. Aya frowned. Then someone deleted it. For several seconds, neither spoke. Finally, Aya asked, Do you have something that belonged to Mina? Haruto's face changed. She noticed. So you do. You don't have to answer. Aya sat on top of an old desk. I've been thinking. About what? Mina wasn't scared before she died. Haruto looked at her. How do you know? Because I watched her. Haruto blinked. What do you mean? Aya looked toward the window. For 3 months. I followed her. Silence. Haruto slowly stepped back. You followed her? Yes. Why? Aya smiled sadly. Because I hated her. The words hung in the air. She didn't seem ashamed. Only tired. I thought she looked down on everyone. Aya continued. She barely talked. Never smiled. Always writing in that notebook. I thought she believed she was smarter than us. So, I wanted to catch her doing something wrong. Haruto stared at her. Did you? Aya nodded. No. She laughed bitterly. The more I watched her, the more I realized. She wasn't watching us because she hated us. She was afraid. Haruto remembered the notebook. Every observation. Every sentence. Was that fear? Or preparation? Aya reached into her bag. She removed a folded piece of paper. I found this. It was a photocopy. 1 page from Mina's notebook. Haruto immediately recognized the handwriting. Where did you get this? It fell out of her desk 2 weeks ago. He looked down. The page contained only 1 paragraph. If I disappear, nobody will believe the truth. The person I'm afraid of has already convinced everyone they are harmless. That is why they will win. Haruto felt his heartbeat quicken. This page. It wasn't in the notebook. I know. Aya looked directly at him. Because someone removed it. Who? I don't know. She paused. But I know who wanted to. The classroom door suddenly slammed open. Both turned. No one. Only the wind. Aya lowered her voice. Mr. Ishikawa. Haruto froze. Our teacher. He knew about the notebook. How? I saw him reading it. When? The day before Mina disappeared. Haruto couldn't believe it. No. I saw him. Maybe she showed him. Aya shook her head. She didn't. She was crying. He was angry. I couldn't hear what they were saying. But she ran away. She left the notebook behind. What happened then? Aya took a deep breath. He looked around. And tore several pages out. Silence. Only the old clock ticked. Tick. 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 Haruto's mind raced. Was Mr. Ishikawa protecting someone? Or hiding something? Why had he resigned? Why record the class? Why tell them to tell the truth? Nothing fit together. That evening, Mr. Ishikawa sat alone in his apartment. His furniture was already packed into boxes. He opened one final box. Inside were dozens of cassette tapes. each one labeled with a class, a year, a room number. He placed one into an old recorder. Static filled the room. Then, a child's voice. I didn't mean to push him. Another voice. It wasn't my fault. Another. If I tell the truth, Dad will kill me. Mr. Ishikawa closed his eyes. He whispered, children never lie first. They learn. He reached for another tape. This one had only one word written on it. Mina. He pressed play. At first, nothing. Then a quiet voice. Mina's. Mr. Ishikawa. If something happens to me, promise me you won't tell the police. His hand froze. The tape continued. They'll arrest the wrong person. Silence. Then Mr. Ishikawa's recorded voice. Who are you protecting? A long pause. Finally, Mina answered. I'm not protecting anyone. I'm protecting the truth. The tape ended. Mr. Ishikawa stared into the darkness. I failed you. His voice cracked for the first time. I thought I still had time. The next morning, the entire school gathered in the auditorium. The principal stood on the stage. His face was unusually serious. We have received new information regarding Mina Arai. The room became silent. Police officers stood near every exit. Students exchanged nervous glances. The principal unfolded a sheet of paper. Late last night, someone confessed. Gasps spread across the room. Haruto looked at Aya. Aya looked back at him. Neither smiled. Because both knew. A confession did not always mean the truth. The principal continued. The student who confessed claims. They killed Mina Arai. The gym fell completely silent. Then, the doors at the back of the auditorium opened. 2 police officers walked in. Between them was Yuto Sasaki. His hands were trembling. His face was covered with tears. He looked at his classmates. Then said only one sentence. I lied. And no one knew. Whether he meant today, or the day Mina died. No one spoke. Yuto stood between the 2 police officers like someone who had forgotten how to breathe. The principal looked at him. Yuto. If you're ready. Yuto nodded. Barely. His voice broke. I killed Mina. The room exploded into whispers. No way. He's lying. I knew something was wrong. I told you. The police escorted him out before anyone could ask another question. Haruto watched him leave. Something was wrong. Yuto wasn't acting like a murderer. He was acting like someone waiting to be punished. That afternoon, the school closed early. Students rushed home. Haruto did not. Neither did Aya. They met behind the old science building. The abandoned greenhouse stood only a few meters away. Yellow police tape still surrounded it. The broken windows reflected the gray sky. Aya stared at the building. This isn't where she died. Haruto looked at her. What? This is where they found her. That's different. Haruto frowned. The police said. The police never said she died here. Aya interrupted. They only said her body was found here. The words hit him like cold water. He had never noticed the difference. Come with me. Aya walked toward the back of the greenhouse. There, hidden behind overgrown bushes, was a small metal door. Its lock had been broken. This door wasn't on the police report. How do you know? I checked. You checked. My uncle is a reporter. She smiled faintly. He leaves papers around. Inside the greenhouse, dust covered almost everything. Almost. There was one clean path across the floor. Someone had walked there recently. Many times. Haruto followed the footprints. They ended near an old storage cabinet. It was locked. Aya pulled a thin metal pin from her pocket. You know how to pick locks? I watched too many videos. 2 minutes later. Click. The cabinet opened. It was empty. except for one object, a digital voice recorder. Haruto picked it up. Its battery was almost dead. He pressed play. Static. Then, a familiar voice. Mr. Ishikawa, if someone finds this, don't trust what you've been told. Haruto and Aya looked at each other. The recording continued. Mina believed she discovered a killer. She was wrong. Pause. What she discovered was something far more dangerous. Another pause. A person who could convince anyone to believe a lie. The recording suddenly stopped. Battery empty. Aya whispered, "We need to charge it." That evening, police questioned Haruto. The detective placed a photograph on the table. It showed Yuto entering the greenhouse. Friday, 5:42 p.m. We know he was there. The detective folded his hands. What we don't know is who was with him. Haruto stared at the picture. A second figure appeared in the distance. Blurred. Almost impossible to recognize. Almost. The person wore white gloves. In June. Too warm for gloves. Haruto had seen those gloves before. But where? The detective watched him carefully. Do you recognize them? Haruto hesitated. No. He lied. When he reached home, his mother was waiting. There was a man here. Haruto froze. What man? He asked for you. What did he look like? I don't know. He wore a mask. He said he was your teacher. Haruto's stomach tightened. Mr. Ishikawa? No. His mother continued. He left this. She handed him a small envelope. Inside, a single cassette tape. No note. Only one word. Friday. Haruto found an old cassette player in the attic. The tape crackled. Then voices. Mina's voice. Clear. I'm recording this because I'm scared. A door closed somewhere in the background. I know you're here. Silence. Then footsteps. Slow. Steady. Another voice answered. You shouldn't have kept watching. Haruto turned the volume higher. The second voice was distorted. Impossible to recognize. Mina spoke again. I know what happened last winter. The footsteps stopped. I know it wasn't an accident. Long silence. Then, the stranger laughed. A soft laugh. Almost friendly. You know too little. Mina answered immediately. No. I know enough. The tape ended. Haruto replayed the laugh. Again. 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 Then he realized something. He had heard it before. Not in class. Not at school. At the graduation ceremony. Months ago. Someone laughed exactly like that. The next morning, Aya arrived carrying a laptop. I restored the recorder. Haruto leaned closer. It still works. Part of it. She pressed play. Mr. Ishikawa's voice returned. Mina believed she discovered a killer. She was wrong. What she discovered was someone who had already destroyed one life. The first victim survived. The second, I couldn't save. Haruto frowned. The first victim? Aya looked up. There was someone before Mina. They searched old newspaper archives. Nothing. School records. Nothing. Yearbooks. Nothing. It was as if another victim had been erased. Then, Aya found a name hidden in an old disciplinary report. Kei Morimoto. A student. 3 years earlier. Transferred suddenly. Reason. Family relocation. Aya shook her head. That's fake. How do you know? The address never changed. Haruto stared at the screen. If he didn't move, why did he disappear? That evening, Haruto visited Kei's old apartment. The mailbox still had the family name. Someone opened the door. A woman. Tired eyes. Gray hair. Can I help you? I'm looking for Kei. The woman's face changed. You shouldn't say that name. Why? Her hands began shaking. My son hasn't spoken a single word since the day he left that school. She slowly closed the door. Before it shut completely, she whispered, "If you value your life, stop asking questions." Haruto stood frozen. Inside the apartment, he heard something, a chair scraping across the floor. Then, a quiet laugh. The same laugh from the cassette. Haruto turned toward the window. On the second floor, a man stood behind the curtains, watching him, wearing white gloves. The curtain closed. By the time Haruto reached the entrance, the apartment was empty. No man, no sound. Only one thing remained on the dining table. A folded sheet of paper. On it, in Mina's handwriting, "You finally found the first victim. Now find the one who taught the liar how to lie." The note changed everything. Haruto read it again. "You finally found the first victim. Now find the one who taught the liar how to lie." He looked up. The apartment was silent. The man with the white gloves had disappeared. But he had left the note where Haruto would find it. That meant only one thing. He wanted Haruto to keep looking. The next morning, Yuto withdrew his confession. "I didn't kill Mina." The detective slammed a folder onto the table. "You confessed." "I lied." "Why?" Yuto lowered his head. "Because someone told me if I confessed, everyone else would be safe." The detective frowned. "Who?" Yuto closed his eyes. "I don't know." "You expect me to believe that? I never saw their face." At school, the rumors spread faster than facts. Yuto made everything up. "No, the police forced him. I heard the teacher did it. My brother said it was a gang." Every version sounded believable. None sounded true. Haruto and Aya met one last time in the empty library. Between them sat three things: the blue notebook, the cassette labeled Friday, the repaired voice recorder. Aya looked at Haruto. "Read the last page again." Haruto frowned. "There isn't a last page." "There is." She pointed at the notebook's back cover. "It feels thicker." Haruto carefully examined it. The back cover was glued. He slid a ruler underneath. The glue came apart. Hidden inside was one final sheet, folded 4 times. His hands trembled as he opened it. It wasn't written to the police. It wasn't written to her parents. It was addressed to only one person. "Mr. Ishikawa, if you're reading this, I was right. You told me to stop searching because the truth hurts innocent people. I disagreed. Now I understand what you meant. The truth doesn't only punish the guilty. It destroys everyone standing nearby. If I disappear, please don't look for revenge. Look for the reason. People don't become monsters overnight. Someone teaches them." Haruto looked up. "The liar," Aya finished the sentence, "was never the real enemy." Just then, the library door opened. Mr. Ishikawa walked inside. No one had seen him return to school. He looked older. His beard had grown. Dark circles surrounded his eyes. He quietly closed the door. "I've been waiting." Haruto stood. "You knew?" Mr. Ishikawa nodded. "Yes." "You tore pages out." "Yes." "You hid recordings." "Yes." "You lied." Another nod. "Yes." Haruto's voice rose. "Why?" Mr. Ishikawa sat down. "I'll answer. But first." He looked at Haruto. "Tell me something." "What?" "When Yuto confessed, did you believe him?" "No." "When Aya admitted following Mina, did you think she killed her?" "No." "When you found my recordings, did you believe I was the murderer?" Haruto hesitated. For a while. Mr. Ishikawa smiled sadly. "Exactly. The truth never arrives first. The first thing to arrive is the story people want." He placed a thin folder on the table. Inside, police photographs. medical reports, phone records. One report had a single line highlighted. Cause of death, severe allergic reaction. Haruto blinked. What? Aya grabbed the report. There were no injuries. Mr. Ishikawa nodded. Mina wasn't murdered. Silence. The room seemed to stop moving. Haruto whispered. Then. The greenhouse. Someone panicked. Mr. Ishikawa continued. Mina suffered a severe allergic reaction after drinking bottled tea. She collapsed. Another student found her. They became terrified. They thought she had died because of them. So, they moved her body. To hide what happened. Haruto stared blankly. Who? Mr. Ishikawa looked toward the window. Yuto. Aya shook her head. But Yuto didn't kill her. No. He believed he did. Mr. Ishikawa nodded. That's why he confessed. The tea. Haruto whispered. What was in it? Mr. Ishikawa answered quietly. Almond extract. Mina had a deadly allergy. Someone poured it into her drink as a prank. They didn't know. They thought it would only taste strange. Haruto felt sick. So, it was an accident. Mr. Ishikawa closed his eyes. No. It became an accident. Until everyone started lying. Silence. Then, Aya asked the question no one wanted answered. Who poured it? Mr. Ishikawa looked directly at her. You. Aya froze. No. You borrowed Mina's bottle during lunch. You wanted to embarrass her. You added almond flavoring. You didn't know. You forgot. Aya's hands began shaking. I never. Then, her memories returned. A bottle. Friends laughing. Someone saying, she'll finally smile. She had laughed too. She never saw Mina drink it. She had forgotten. Until now. Tears rolled down Aya's face. I killed her. Mr. Ishikawa shook his head. No. You made a terrible choice. But you didn't know. Yuto moved the body. Other students hid evidence. The principal asked teachers to stay quiet until the investigation ended. The police chased the wrong theories. And I. He looked at the notebook. I removed pages because Mina had written names. Including yours. If those pages were found, you would have been judged before anyone knew the truth. Haruto whispered. So why resign? Mr. Ishikawa smiled. Because I failed. I taught students mathematics, history, literature, but I never taught them. That one lie always asks for another. Police entered the library minutes later. Not to arrest Aya. Not to arrest Yuto. The investigation had finally been reconstructed. A prank. An allergic reaction. Fear. A hidden body. False confessions. Destroyed evidence. None of it began with murder. But, together, it became something almost impossible to untangle. As the officers left, Mr. Ishikawa remained seated. Haruto looked at him. So, who was the liar? Mr. Ishikawa looked around the empty library. Then answered. Everyone. Weeks later. Room 3B reopened. A new class entered. Fresh faces. Fresh notebooks. Fresh promises. On the blackboard, someone had written 3 words. The truth matters. The janitor erased them. He had no idea who had written them. Neither did anyone else. But for one brief moment, the empty classroom looked exactly as it had before, as if the room itself refused to forget. 1 year later, the classroom no longer belonged to Class 3B. New students filled the room. They laughed, complained about homework, passed notes during class. For them, it was just another classroom. They knew nothing about the empty desk. The school had repaired the greenhouse. Fresh flowers now grew where dead plants once stood. Teachers called it a symbol of healing. Most students believed them. Some did not. Haruto graduated quietly. He never became famous. He never gave interviews. When reporters asked about Mina, he always gave the same answer. I wasn't the person you should ask. Eventually, the reporters stopped calling. Aya never returned to that school. The court ruled that what happened had been a tragic accident, not an intentional killing. She received counseling, performed community service, and lived under constant guilt. Not because a judge ordered it, but because she remembered that a thoughtless joke had changed many lives. She wrote one letter every year. She addressed each one to Mina. She never mailed them. She kept them in a wooden box beneath her bed. Yuto slowly recovered. Doctors said trauma had convinced him that he deserved punishment. He had carried the weight of a death that wasn't his fault. Years later, he admitted something during therapy. I wasn't afraid of prison. I was afraid people would know. That I ran away before asking for help. That regret stayed with him longer than the police investigation. Mr. Rin Ishikawa never taught in another school. Instead, he accepted a quiet job at a public library. Children often came there after school. Sometimes they asked him for help with homework. Sometimes they only wanted someone to listen. He never raised his voice. He never hurried them. And whenever a child whispered, "I made a mistake," he always answered, "Then tell me before it becomes two mistakes." The blue notebook remained in a locked drawer at the local police station. It became part of the case file. Most officers saw it as evidence. One young detective read every page. When he finished, he closed it slowly. "There isn't a single clue in here." His partner shook his head. "No, there are 32. On a rainy afternoon, Haruto visited Mina's grave. He carried no flowers, only a small notebook. He sat quietly for a long time. Finally he spoke. "I used to think people were either good or bad. The older I get, the less I believe that." He placed the notebook beside the stone. "I think people become dangerous when they believe one small lie can't hurt anyone." The wind turned a few pages. Haruto smiled faintly. "You were right. People don't become monsters overnight. They become them. One excuse at a time." He stood and walked away. Several months later, workers began demolishing the oldest part of the school. While removing a wall behind the former music room, they found a small metal box hidden inside. The principal opened it. There was only one cassette tape. No date. No name. Only a label written in neat handwriting. Lesson 1. The tape was given to the police. They played it. Static filled the room. Then, Mr. Ishikawa's voice. "If you're listening to this, then someone has repeated our mistake." A pause. "You probably want to know who was guilty." Another pause. "You're asking the wrong question." Silence. Then his final lesson. When people ask, "Who destroyed this life?" they usually find one person. But when they ask, "Who had the chance to stop it?" they begin counting. The tape clicked. It ended. The police locked the tape away. The school reopened. Students kept studying. Teachers kept teaching. Parents kept believing their children would always tell the truth. Life continued, as it always does. But every spring, when rain tapped softly against the classroom windows, a few older teachers would glance toward the corner where one desk had once stood. No plaque marked the spot. No memorial remained. Only empty space. The kind that cannot be measured with a ruler. Only remembered. Because some classrooms forget their students. And some students never leave the classroom at all.